Okay, let's just dive right in. We are living in an age of absolutely incredible knowledge, right? Universities are pumping out groundbreaking work every single day. But have you ever stopped to wonder how much of that genius level stuff actually makes it out of the academic journals and into the real world? Where we can actually use it? Well, the answer, it's probably not what you think.
Get this, 3%. That's it. A landmark study in human resources found that a shockingly tiny fraction of published research, just 3%, is directly trying to solve a problem that people in the real world are grappling with. I mean, let that sink in. 3%. That's not just a number, that is a colossal missed opportunity. And this brings us to the central puzzle, doesn't it? Because on one side, you've got these brilliant researchers who are literally pushing the boundaries of what we know. And on the other, you have brilliant practitioners on the front lines solving incredibly complex problems day in and day out. So what gives? Why is there this massive chasm between them? Now, this isn't just some simple communication mix-up. Nope, it's a really well-documented thing called the academic practitioner gap. We're calling it the Great Knowledge Divide. And this isn't new either. This has been a stubborn problem for decades in basically every field you can think of: business, management, public policy, you name it. And you've got to understand, this is not just some abstract ivory tower debate. This gap has very real consequences. It means game-changing business strategies might just sit collecting dust in a journal somewhere. It means critical public policies might be based on information that's totally out of date. It's really the ultimate gap between knowing something and actually doing something about it. So to really wrap your head around why this gap is so persistent, it helps to think about academia and practice not just as different career paths, but as two completely separate worlds. Seriously, each one has its own culture, its own language, its own set of rules for how to win. Okay, so first, let's take a trip to the world of academia. Here, the name of the game is scientific rigor. It's all about methodically building on existing theory, creating this abstract, generalizable knowledge that can take years, literally years, to develop. And the grand prize? Getting published in a top-tier, peer-reviewed journal, all written in the super specialized jargon of your field. Now, let's jump over to the world of practice. It's a totally different vibe here. The goal is all about immediate, real-world relevance. People here are driven to solve very specific, very urgent problems. And their timeline? We're talking quarters or even weeks, not years. The big incentive is seeing immediate results and making an impact. And the language is direct, it's action-oriented. What do we do now? So when you put these two worlds side by side, it's kind of obvious why they don't always connect, right? It's like they're operating on two different planets with their own gravity and their own laws of physics. And this chart really nails it. It comes down to different languages and different clocks. In academia, they value rigor. They're focused on what's called variance theories, basically explaining why things happen. But in practice, they need utility. They need process theories, the actionable steps on how to make something happen. And just look at those time horizons. One world is thinking in decades, the other is thinking in days. Of course they're going to have trouble talking to each other. This quote just captures the whole paradox perfectly. You have all these massive differences that create all this tension. But here's the twist. What if that tension isn't the problem? What if, as these researchers suggest, it's actually the secret ingredient for a solution? What if all that friction is exactly what you need to spark something totally new and amazing? Okay, so how do we fix this? The good news is, instead of just complaining about the gap, some really innovative people are out there actively trying to build bridges between these two worlds, and they're getting pretty creative about it. One of the most promising ideas is something called interactive research, or IR. And the key here is that it's not about academics finishing a study and then just, tossing a report over the wall. No way. This is about a true partnership, right from the very beginning, where both sides are constantly learning from each other to create something that is both academically solid and incredibly useful. So what does this actually look like? Well, imagine a collaborative research project. In step one, it's not just the researcher deciding what to study. Nope. They sit down with managers and together they define the real-world problem. In step two, the managers actually help pick the search terms, making sure the results will be relevant. In step three, they work together, with managers adding that crucial "here's how it really is" context. And finally, they co-create the final product, so it ends up being a useful tool, not just another report that nobody reads. Now, a lot of times these amazing collaborations need a special kind of person to make them happen, the broker. This is somebody who's basically bilingual. They can speak the language of academic rigor and they can speak the language of real-world relevance. Think of a consultant who reads all the latest research but also understands the pressures of a quarterly business cycle. These brokers are the translators, the matchmakers. They're absolutely essential for bridging that divide.
So, all of this is really pointing to a huge shift in how we think about this problem. It's not about one world fixing or educating the other. It's about forging an entirely new kind of partnership. This quote just nails it. The goal isn't to get rid of the tension between these two worlds. The goal is to exploit it. You see, all those differences in perspective, in values, in language, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's the very engine that can produce knowledge that's so much more powerful than anything either world could ever create by itself.
So here's the big idea, the main takeaway. We need to stop looking at this divide as just some empty void that we have to fill. Instead, we should see it as a dynamic, super creative space. It's the place where rigor meets relevance. It's where an academic's push for solid evidence can challenge a manager's old assumptions, and where a manager's demand for practical solutions can bring abstract theories right down to earth.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Maybe, for all these decades, we've been trying to solve the wrong problem. What if the future of innovation isn't about trying to force these two worlds to merge into one? What if it's about building stronger and better bridges so they can collide and argue and collaborate and create something brand new in that space right between them? What if the real goal isn't to close the gap, but to harness the incredible creative tension that lives inside it?